Howdy, all. We always talk movies on the webcast.
We do.
One of the reasons why is because I'm a movie buff. I used to work in a movie theater for a decade. Started it as an usher, ended up as an assistant manager. It was one of those jobs for us where you were getting paid $3.35 an hour to pick up popcorn, but it was the best job because there was an hour and a half in between the movies, and you could eat popcorn and talk and all that crap.
Yeah.
But I love movies, and I started in 1985, and I think a year later, one of the first big movies that we had was Top Gun. And the funny thing is, watching Top Gun now, it's such a bad movie. It's
horrible.
Yeah, it's such a badly acted, badly
poorly written.
Poorly written. I mean, it's how people say Roadhouse, the Patrick Swayze movie, is a good bad movie. Well, I think Top Gun is sort of like that. It's a good bad movie.
It is. It's kind of like the big sell of it was Kelly McGillis and Tom Cruise, right? And maybe Val Kilmer for the women that like Val Kilmer. Now, if they look at Val Kilmer, they might not like him. But I'm just saying it nicely.
There's more of Val Kilmer to see.
More Val to love. But the point is, it just was a movie about cool planes, right? But we're like so far past that, it doesn't even matter to me, like on a new Top Gun, it doesn't matter what Tom Cruise or some new guy is flying. There's nothing interesting about flight anymore.
Yeah.
Not when we're going into space and everything in movies. So like this is going to be antiquated from the start. I don't care what kind of supersonic da-da-da. And I don't want to hear like, this is Maverick. And it's like, it's going to be so tired.
And see, this is the premise, because apparently what is going to happen is,
I like Jerry Bruckheimer, but this is like Hollywood probably telling him, Jerry, if you make another Top Gun, then we'll greenlight another movie that we're not that thrilled about, but we'll do it.
Or it's either, Jerry, you better do it now because Tom Cruise is pushing 50. And it's going to, because basically, what the plot's going to be. If for the three people in the world who haven't seen it, 30 years ago.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Tom Cruise was this young pilot, rash. His dad has a history, from Vietnam, and he's a maverick, so to speak, and that's his name.
Pre-Scientology, Tom Cruise.
And you had Tom Skerritt as the commander, who flew with his dad in Vietnam and knew all the dirty stuff, who knew all the truth.
Right.
I'm telling you right now, what's going to happen is you're going to have Tom Cruise playing the Tom Skerritt role. He's going to be the instructor, and he's going to have some young buck like Channing Tatum or something like that be the Maverick.
Yeah,
it's got to be it. There's nothing else. So what's the point?
There is no point.
And I'm like, if I'd like to say it would be great to see Kelly McGillis, but I've seen Kelly McGillis, and now you have to get like the 2016 version of Kelly. You have to get like Jennifer Lawrence.
Right. But the problem is, and they may have redone this, I don't know, but it's like remaking Footloose. Like it's just, there's nothing. Footloose is pointless. It's completely 100% pointless, as all those dance movies are. Sorry if you like those dance movies, but they're just.
They haven't made Flashdance. They haven't remade Flashdance yet, but they did Footloose, and I didn't even bother seeing it.
Okay, so they did a Footloose, but yeah, even remaking Flashdance, there's just no point in it. The world has changed. Even if you try and update it, there's nothing worth updating there.
No.
That's
so
it.
It's like, so Jerry Bruckheimer is going to do Top Gun 2. After 30 years. Now, there are sequels that I would like to see. Like, I hear that they're working on a Big Lebowski sequel.
Okay, that's fair. That was a good movie.
Right, and the Coen brothers, they can write. I don't know how good this new one that's coming.
I wish I was related, but it's spelled different.
Yeah. So I'll change my name if I was related. No, but they.
Oh, you mean if you were related to me, you would change my name? Your name?
I would change my name to Coen if I was related to the Coen brothers, so I could get some of their money.
That's the only way you'd become a Jew, is if you could make money off it. Is that what you're saying?
Hey, Italians and Jews are pretty close.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, a Big Lebowski, a sequel, okay. That's something.
I heard this as a working title. I don't know if it's true, but the new Spaceballs is supposed to be called Spaceballs 3 in search of Spaceballs 2, like in search of the Spaceballs 2 or something like that. That's kind of funny. But they greenlighted a new Spaceballs.
Is Mel Brooks doing it?
Yes.
Oh my God. Well, I hope they have insurance because Mel's getting up there. I think he's close to 90, actually.
But he's spry.
Him and Carl Reiner are still alive. That's the thing that's amazing.
They still get together. I don't watch many of those Seinfeld, go in the car show, whatever. But he did meet up with Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks, and they bring each other lunch, and they call into the same deli that they've been calling into for like 50 years. It's fantastic. It really is.
The sad thing is that probably Rob Reiner is going to die before his dad.
It wouldn't shock anybody, I don't think.
Oh
but
my God.
I'm looking forward to it. I would see another Spaceballs. I would welcome it because I think Mel Brooks is still really funny and
hilarious.
And there's been very few funny people like him ever in the world, really.
And last thing on the movies, and then we'll get talking about hockey, but only Mel Brooks, and you can say yay or nay on this. Only Mel Brooks could make The Producers.
That's true.
If a Catholic had made The Producers, he would have been an anti-Semite. If Mel Gibson had made The Producers, they would have lynched him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm not talking about the remake, the Broadway play. Anybody who wants to see a great comedy, watch The Producers. That
had the dancing rabbis, right?
Yeah.
Anybody else does that, it's bad.
Right. Exactly. The 1967 version of The Producers with a young Gene Wilder and Sarah Mustel. That movie still makes me laugh out loud. It's fantastic.
Gold, Jerry. It's gold.
It's a little old. I know. It's as old as I am, but what the hell?
No, but some movies hold up. Some do. Mm-hmm. I just asked a relevant question too, and people in the audience could tweet us on this if they want. Apparently, there might be like a 6-hour silent film festival in New York. And my feeling is if I'm going to sit there for 6 hours, can I actually talk through that? Because it is a silent film.
Is somebody going to be playing piano in the corner?
I don't know. Or are they going to shush me like it's a regular movie? Because it's not like we're going to miss anything. There's subtitles. So
that's why who is it? Roberto Benigni wins for a silent movie. Or what was no, that wasn't the.
I know what you're talking about though. I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there was The Artist, I think it was called.
Yes, The Artist. That's what it was.
I mean, I don't understand how in 1920 I can see somebody winning an Oscar for a silent movie. In 2010, how can a silent movie? Anyway, we won't talk about that because we'll get into certain people getting nominations and certain people not getting nominations.
Yeah, we don't want to go down that road.
Thank you very much. Okay. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Thursday, January 28th, 2016.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and I want to wish Sarah McLachlan a happy birthday. And this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com.
Is this like a personal shout out? Come on, man.
I had to get it in, or I'm sorry. People are going to be making fun of me, but I actually tweeted it out this morning, so what the hell? I don't care. Anyway.
There's a couple big reveals this week with you and this show.
Downton Abbey and Sarah McLachlan. Oh, come on. Everybody knows about Sarah McLachlan.
Yeah.
Hey, my motivations for Downton Abbey is women, so there's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, the news of the day, and it just broke about 15 minutes ago. I saw a tweet from Darren Drager of TSN that Dennis Weidman has been suspended indefinitely by the NHL for a collision last night with, I think his name is Don Henderson, a linesman during the game against the Nashville Predators. Now, I don't have the ability to show the replay, but I'm sure everybody who's on Twitter saw the replay of that.
Look, and in typical fashion, if there's something negative about hockey, let's show it on ESPN. So, ESPN showed it.
Yeah. ESPN,
on all of their shows. They're all talking about it.
Which is why I could care less about ESPN. If I could.
Look, I'm not gonna lie. I watch a few shows, but I find it funny that 99% of the time, if you're showing something about hockey, it's usually negative.
Yeah, Steve Moore and Todd Bertuzzi. Yeah. That's page 1.
Yep.
On ESPN, but I watched the video last night because I saw all the traffic on Twitter and I had to take a look at it. I can't say for sure whether it was on purpose, but he clearly had his bell rung in the corner. He was favoring his shoulder. He was skating to the bench. His head was up. Maybe his eyes were down, but he pushed the referee. His arms came up, and he didn't.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he took that step forward. There's no question about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, his story after the game was, I really didn't see him. I reacted because he was in my vision, and I just, put up my hands in sort of like self-defense. It doesn't
it's
seem
like Roger Clemens saying what he said with Piazza.
right.
It rings to me. It rings the same way. Now, the only difference is that Weidman had his bell rung. So if he wasn't in his right mind, which there's a good chance he wasn't, why in the world is that the first thought, is to just hit somebody? Because that's what he did. He did the act.
Right.
Why in the world, just because you got hit, even when you're not in your right mind, like I've had a concussion and it didn't turn me into a guy that just started to hit people. So that's kind of a weird thing right there. The other thing is, it looked like he was on the bench for a little bit more time after that.
Right.
Why didn't he get directly taken to the dark room?
Right. I know. That question was asked, and there was no good answer.
Yeah.
Made. Now, the funny thing is, this brings up something, is like, you have the situation where both benches are on the same side of the ice.
Right.
And you have that crossing of the players where, I've seen guys like Rich Clune on the Leafs. They will start something with players when they're crossing, trying to get into the bench. That's an opportunity to start something and just get something going. I mean, and this is an open question and maybe a stupid one. Have they ever thought about putting one bench on one side of the ice and another bench on the other side of the ice to avoid something like that?
It's an interesting thought.
You could also eliminate the disadvantage during the periods if you put the benches at the center of each side instead of having both on one side. I don't know, that I'm sure that every building would have to be structurally changed, or the setup of the seats would have to be changed. But
when Brian Burke gets that extra 10 feet on the ice, maybe they'll do that.
Yeah.
Which will never happen, by the way.
Yes, they're gonna go to the Finnish hybrid 92.5 foot ice. Yeah, no. But I don't think this was a Tom Lysiak, let's trip the linesman when he's dropping the puck.
No, but he did. My problem is that he had his bell rung, but he took the step forward and hit the guy with his stick. So at the end of the day, you're still responsible for your actions, regardless if you're in your own mind or not. I've been concussed a few times in my life. And again, that's not the first thing that has popped into my head to do. And so, and I can't get in his head. But I don't like the apology after, because it rings like Roger Clemens. It does. And he was obviously mad.
Right.
And he didn't say he was mad, but we could see it on him that he was mad that he got hit. Yeah. And that played into it. That anger played into it.
That a penalty wasn't called on the hit.
Yeah.
And, if that's the case, if there was some sort of premeditation there.
No, I don't think there's premeditation for the ref. I just think overall frustration with the game.
Right. So, and the funny thing, I thought the funniest thing, the most humorous thing, and this is not sort of a humorous aspect, because Henderson went to the hospital for observation. I guess he's out now.
Yeah.
But the Nashville bench, I think the game was 1-0 or 2-0 at that point. The Nashville bench essentially reacted like he had pulled out a gun and shot the linesman, because they wanted the power play.
They were like, whoa, what are you doing?
Yeah, they wanted the power play is what they wanted. They wanted, you abuse the officials, so give us a two-man advantage or something.
Right.
I don't know what to guess, because it's an indefinite suspension. There's going to be
we're going to have a hearing after the All-Star game.
Right.
So for people jumping the gun saying, well, it's got to be that 21 games, there might be extenuating circumstances this one because of the hit. Now, to me, that's what's going to sort of make this an interesting call. And we won't know what's going to happen until after. But he's definitely getting suspended. Like, if anybody thinks Dennis Weidman's not getting any suspension, to me, they're crazy.
Yeah, no. I heard somebody say, "Oh, it was incidental. There's going to be no suspension."
There's nothing incidental about it.
I know. You guys, there's no explanation in the world that's going to tell me that's incidental.
Right.
But I heard like a game or two, and then I heard 10 or 20. It's like, I think it's going to be like 5. It's probably going to be.
I think it'll be something between 5 and 10. Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to the All-Star game, and moving on is sort of like
I'll tell you what's incidental. You want to know what's incidental? When you spit into the wind on a windy day and it lands on you, and then you look around and you turn at me because you're all pissed off, that's incidental. This wasn't.
That reminds me of the scene in The Big Lebowski when they throw the ashes and it blows back in your face. Yeah, so no. Moving on to the All-Star game, and a couple sort of big defections, Russ.
I'm looking at Djokovic Federer right now. Sorry, it's a good matchup.
Come on, the Aussie Open.
Listen, Djokovic Federer, man, that's a big matchup.
I can understand people in Canada watching Milos Raonic, which anyway.
I'm a Roger Federer fan.
Yes, okay. Well, hey, you can forgive Downton Abbey. I'll forgive Roger Federer. With the All-Star game, it was announced. Well, it was conspicuous at the end of the Carolina-Chicago game that Jonathan Taves did not play in the third period. Apparently, he was suffering from a rather harsh case of the flu.
Yep.
And Alex Ovechkin has had a lower body injury the last few games. Both have begged off of the All-Star game, the All-Star festivities in Nashville. Both will sit out one game after the All-Star break. Makes the All-Star game a little less star-studded. Now you have three of the four? You have two of the four captains bowing out. One of the captains is John Scott, and Jaromir Jagr doesn't want to be there. So, I mean, and now we have James Neal replacing Taves on
we brought up Neal's name yesterday
on the Central Division team, which we should just rename the Nashville Predators because there are four players on there, and Evgeny Kuznetsov replacing Alex Ovechkin. I interviewed Bill Waters for my blog today, and I asked him about the All-Star game being pointless, and he basically said the same thing that Aka said: is this is more of a convention for the league and their advertisers, but the game is getting to be it's getting to be pointless.
We don't know about the game. Let's not indict the game when we haven't seen what it could be like yet. That's the part that I think we have to be open to. Is okay, great, I get it. No Crosby, no Taves, no Ovechkin. I understand. But let's not indict the game part of it yet, because that could be really good.
Yeah, and I'm still curious. I still want to see the 3-on-3.
Yeah.
I still want to see whether the $1 million is going to make players actually put in an effort.
See, if they're smart, they would lower the $1 million down on like a rope, like they do with the WWE for the title belt.
No,
so the players could actually see the money.
You mean the briefcase that they're jumping on all the time?
Yeah.
No, it'd be like the World Series of Poker. They just dump the $1 million on the poker table.
Yeah, but you can't dump it on the ice. Then there's a delay in the game. But I think they could do that, and I think that would be a good thing to show that.
I don't know. I just
obviously.
Yeah,
But I think the game could be good. I'm still going to watch it. I'm still open to the game part of it. And so I'm not going to indict that. I get the part about the star-studded part. Somebody did point out on Twitter, I think it was Hockey Broad, that she thought that it looked like Taves was close to barfing on the bench. And if that's the case, he shouldn't go to the All-Star game. I mean, he really shouldn't. Now, the Ovechkin thing, look, I thought it was cool that he was at the gas station filling up his snowblower, and he actually helped people in his neighborhood dig them out with the snowblower. Now, if you think about that for a minute, what basketball player, there's a lot of other athletes, what baseball player, there's a lot of other sports where I could find some players that there's no way.
Alex Rodriguez would do that for his neighbors.
Yeah. He'd be the perfect one, the perfect example. So is it possible he got hurt in that? Sure. I mean, we all think he's resting, and that's fine. I mean, again, the one thing I did tell you is if guys have shown up to like 10 of them in a row, I sort of give them a personal pass, like, okay, you can miss one or two because of that. It's not like the Patriots who have 7 guys named to the Pro Bowl and all of them backed out.
Well, come on. In the pantheon of All-Star games, the Pro Bowl is the biggest of the jokes.
Right. But it's a bigger joke when you got 7 guys from one team that pull out.
Russ, I'm pretty sure either he's the starter or the backup. one of the quarterbacks for the AFC is Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an okay quarterback.
I heard Jameis Winston's in there too.
Yeah, I mean, everybody and their brother begged off. So, come on, it's ridiculous. I mean,
now, I do like the fact that the NHL does penalize guys for one game because I bet you people think like, what's one game? To the Capitals, that one game is going to mean nothing because they're running away with things. To the Blackhawks, not having Jonathan Taves for a game could mean everything.
Well, Elliot Friedman earlier in the afternoon on Twitter mentioned that the league may address this by increasing the penalty to not show up to more than just a game.
And I'd be in favor of that.
Yeah. So let's just say Sidney Crosby is probably I heard one of the radio shows in Toronto say that Sidney Crosby, as soon as he heard Alex Ovechkin was not going, threw his phone into the one of the three rivers to make sure that he didn't get a phone call from Gary Bettman.
Oh, you mean he pulled a Tom Brady? I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Too much New England talk. My goodness. God. Now, one of the things I know that you.
Wow, they just showed Ken Rosewall. I didn't even know he was still alive. You remember him?
I remember the name. I never saw him.
He looks like he's 85. Wow.
Yeah, well, I remember Rod Laver. I didn't see him play, but I remember.
Yeah. There were sneakers. There were Ken Rosewall sneakers back in the day.
Jeez. The top prospects game. I know that tonight, me being a Politico, I'm going to be watching the Republican debate and not a certain businessman from New York who's going to hold his own little thing. Sure.
Oh, he is actually holding his own little thing. I didn't even know that.
He's holding an event out like a couple miles away at some university.
So he's pulling a TO, basically like doing push-ups somewhere and trying to get people to show up. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Because he's a coward and doesn't want to face one of the commentators who actually asked him a question about his misogynist past,
which is
he doesn't want to be embarrassed again by the host.
Right.
Attacking her the last 6 months, so he's going to hold his own little thing.
Yeah.
And shroud it in.
Pick up his marbles and take him somewhere else.
Yeah, and of course, now everybody is trying to just determine whether this is going to hurt him for the first primary or first caucus or not. I'll be watching the actual debate and flipping back and forth while recording and watching the CHL prospects game, which is being held in Vancouver this year. I was at the one last year, and that game last year was.
Are they holding it? Do you know if it's at Pacific Coliseum, right?
I think it's at the Rogers Arena.
It is. Oh, they did it at the main arena. Okay.
I think so. I'm pretty sure. But being at that game last year, and at that point, I knew who McDavid was, obviously. I knew some of the top players. I knew Dylan Strome and Marner, but I didn't really know a lot about some of the other players who ended up being drafted in the first round. And I can tell you, Russ, after watching that game, I came away with the impression like Travis Konechny was going to be, I don't know if he's going to be a star, but was definitely going to be a great pick for whoever got him because he had a fantastic game. I'm just wondering who of the group that is going to be at that game tonight is going to be that player, that breakout player who's going to step up and impress the scouts. I know a lot of scouts are going to be at that game.
Yeah, there's a ton. I Shane Malloy does the show with me. He'll be there. Mark Edwards, who's on my show, HockeyProspect.com, he's there. Everybody's there. I would say this: Pierre-Luc Dubois, who I brought up the other day.
Right.
This guy's got all the tools. It wouldn't shock me if he gets a big name for himself after this. He's already got a big name, but it's not like a top 10 name yet. And so I think that could happen. Max Jones, even though he's out there, could really show something. There's an interesting GIF out there. Catherine Jean put it up a while ago where Max Jones does this like reverse spin move on Jacob Chychrun and just absolutely toasts him. And I kind of wonder if Chychrun's going to sort of like, get him back in this game, or are they on the same side? I haven't looked.
Yeah, I don't know, but if they're not on the, there was hitting in the game last year.
There's always hitting.
It wasn't an all-star game, and these players are playing to impress the scouts.
Yeah.
They're trying to put on a show, and one of the things that from last year, Konechny was put in the right place. He was put with McDavid and Timo Meier.
Yeah.
And I think he had 2 goals and 2 assists. He really played well, and that opened the eyes of a lot of people. I mean, I'm sure like every draft Nick knew who Travis Konechny was, but when you get to show your stuff and everybody sees it in front of scouts and in front of a lot of fans, then you gain a level of exposure that is a positive thing. I mean,
I'll tell you who this game is biggest for, and that's Sean Day.
Yeah.
Sean Day, this is massive for him because this is his last chance to sort of play with elite competition and show that maybe he should get picked in the second round now.
Yeah, I mean, it's really strange. I mean, this is a kid who had exceptional status at I think 15 years old to make the OHL. His stock has dropped dramatically over the last couple of years. I mean, maybe it was too soon. I heard an interview that questioned whether exceptional status should be given, but it's been given to guys like McDavid, and it didn't hurt them. I think it's an individual thing. But one comment that really stuck out, and I told you about this off air a couple of days ago, our Jeff Merrick, who we both know well, talked about Day and said that he had talked to one NHL scout who said, I don't have him on my list, period. And it's one thing to not have somebody listed high, but when you have a player who was given exceptional status at 15, he's now going to be 18 going into the draft, and this guy doesn't even have him to be picked in the 7th round.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think he'll be picked way before the 7th round, but a game like this could be huge for him. There's a kid, Pascal Laberge, or Labarge, however it's pronounced. I'm not 100% on that one.
Not Labarge.
Plays with Gatineau. This kid's got a lot of talent. Like he could make some plays out there. That could be big. I'll give you a defenseman that's sort of like a sleepy pick, Lucas Johansson, Ryan Johansson's brother. I mean, that's an interesting one because he does have some good tools, and this could be a situation where he could really show it off. He's got a physical side, but it doesn't always play out. But in these kinds of games, there are always big hits, and if he was going to bring out the physical side in a game like this, it could really help his draft stock.
Now, Tyler Benson's not going to be in this game, replaced by Ty Ronning, which is the son of Cliff Ronning, former NHLer, who I'm not making a comparison between the two, but his difficulties and Alex DeBrincat's difficulties in terms of their stock in the draft because of their size are similar. I've heard some people say that it would be big for DeBrincat to have a good game in this game because even though he's having a great year with Erie, he didn't have a great World Junior, and there may be some lingering doubt about him.
Well, I think injuries took their toll. He scored a heck of a goal when he finally did come back healthy. To be honest, I don't know if it's going to change his stock that much. And he's got way more better hands and just a better talent than Ronning. Like, it's the height's what they have in common, but DeBrincat's better in those other areas. Again, it can't hurt him. I don't think anything he could do in this game will hurt him. But I think, it could raise him a little bit. It could. Ole Ulevi, could he move up even a little bit more? He could. Right. Is it possible that he could go ahead of Chychrun? I don't know. Anything's possible. I mean, but that kid's got a ton of talent.
I mean, each team has their own individual list. We know that. I mean, from everything that I've seen on different lists, the general consensus is right now is that Chychrun is anywhere from 3 to 6, and Ulevi is probably like in the 6 to 8 range. So
today, maybe tomorrow, it's a different story. That's what I'm saying.
Sure, yeah. I mean, if Ulevi all of a sudden stands on his head and plays fantastic, then he could jump ahead. So I mean, we'll see.
So we'll see. It'll be fun. It's always a fun game. There's always that first big hit. I told a story where I actually figured out who was going to do it a few years back when we had Don Cherry on the show, and that was sort of fun to watch with Ryan Hartman doing it. This time, I don't really know. Like, I don't know who's going to lay the first hit. But I always look for it, and it's always fun, and the fans always erupt. They sort of love it. But, look, Matthew Tkachuk will do well. But I'm telling you, if there's one guy I'm backing, it'll be Pierre-Luc Dubois. We'll see what he does. And if he stinks, then everybody could just laugh at me, and that's fine.
Okay. Wanted to touch on some of the stuff that happened last night in a very mundane very boring game, at least to my estimation. It was a 1-0 Tampa victory over the Maple Leafs. And Steven Stamkos got the only goal. And of course, once that happened, and
playing for Tampa?
What's that?
Is he still playing for Tampa?
No, they haven't printed up the Leafs uniform yet. It's stocked back in the shelves at Center Sports in Toronto.
Okay.
But no, it was funny because some of the Sportsnet commentators at the beginning of the game were asked to predict. Like, I mean, I understand that some of these people have a lot more context than I do, but it seemed a little bit disingenuous when one said Detroit, one said Montreal, another one said he's staying in Tampa. When everybody knows if he goes to free agency, I'm not saying it's guaranteed. I'm saying Toronto would be the leading candidate. It doesn't mean that he's going there definitely for sure, but to not mention them as a possibility struck me as a little bit disingenuous.
It has to. I mean, everybody knows it's probably the top destination for him, or if not top destination, top place that'll be talked about as a destination. And the fact that none of them had that is weird.
Yeah. Now,
it is weird.
Now, granted,
Voracek battling with Kuznetsov.
Now, granted, would it have been tampering?
I'm trying to look at that goal from last night. Okay, sorry.
Would it have been tampering because they were for Rogers and Rogers half owns the Maple Leafs? I mean, I don't know. All I know is that, it's a distinct possibility. For the first things first, we have to get to February 29th and see whether Stamkos is traded or not, which I don't think is going to happen. They're now second place in the Atlantic. They've won 8 of their last 10 games. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're probably number 2 behind Washington, which everybody thinks is going to win the Eastern Conference, and they may very well do so. But Tampa has the experience now. They have the pretty much the same team as last year. If everybody's healthy, they have as good a shot as Washington to make the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, they're really in a tough spot. Like, this is where the salary cap kills teams, because you don't want to trade your best player because you feel like you have a chance to win the cup, but you don't want your best player to walk without getting maximum value.
Right.
And that's the tightrope that they're going on now. And so it's hard. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that Toronto will be in the mix if he goes to free agency. Like, there's not a question in my mind they'll be in the mix. It's just a question of, does he want to play for them? Because we don't know that answer. Nobody does.
Well, okay. I don't think it's a question of whether he wants to play for them. I think it's a question of
and all that goes with it.
Right.
The big money, the big pressure, all of it.
The big money, the big pressure. Is the team going to be able to win in 2 or 3 years, or is it going to be longer? I mean, he doesn't want to go someplace where he's got a legitimate chance of winning a Stanley Cup the next maybe 3 to 5 years. But the problem is, and this is when I talked to Bill Waters about this, he made a pretty good point that with their situation. I mean, you look at LA. Kopitar signs for $10 million. They had all of their players: Doughty, Quick, Gaborik, Carter, the 2 defensemen, Muzzin and Martinez.
Rolling, my dog's got to go potty.
Okay, I'll stretch. all those players for LA were locked up long term, so they had cost certainty there. They knew that by signing Kopitar, they could fit everybody in at least for a little while. I mean, when Toffoli comes up for a contract, they're gonna have problems fitting him in. They may not be able to afford Lucic, but the core guys, they've locked them up. They're all locked up before Kopitar was. So Kopitar was the final big long contract. Tampa Bay, and as we've discussed on the webcast many times, within the next 2 years, every one of their players, Nemestikov, Kucherov, Palat, Killorn, Johnson, Hedman, Bishop, all of them are coming up for RFA or UFA. And that, that may mean that, the 8.5 offer, I refer to it as almost insulting. Waters said it may be something that, if they come up to say,
it's 8.5, it could be 8.55. I'm just saying.
Right. Yeah. If they come up to say 9.5, maybe that's where he would accept it. But I don't get, and maybe I'm wrong, Russ. I don't get the feeling. I almost get the feeling that this was like at least we offered him something type of thing.
Yeah, I'm getting the feeling just a little bit like it's like when the Mets sort of offered Darryl Strawberry that last contract,
right?
But you knew he wasn't going to accept it. I am getting that feeling a little bit because here's the way I always look at it. This is the world of high finance, right? If it really is a difference of 8.5 a year or 9.5 a year, and it's going to cost you an extra $8 million, really, Jeff Vinnick's not going to fork that over? That just seems stupid, right?
Yeah.
So it has to be more than that.
I think it's a couple things more than that. I think it's okay. 9.5 might be their ceiling, and he could go out in the open market and get 10, 7, 5, or 11. He could be the highest player in the league. And, the PA would want that, but I'm sure Stamkos would want it too. I mean, as long as it doesn't completely cripple the team that he's going to. I
don't know if this is allowed. It used to be allowed in other leagues. We don't hear about it. Can you sign a guy to a personal services contract? Are you allowed to?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that's circumvention of the cap.
Okay.
There are certain ways to do things, like, all of a sudden hiring Steven Stamkos' dad as a scout,
right,
for $1 million a year. I mean, not to say that they're going to do that or anybody's going to do that, but there might be ways around things. But no.
Maybe you make the road next to the arena, the Amalie Arena, Steven Stamkos way. There just seems like to me, Tampa's not rolling out the complete red carpet for him.
Right. Because I think they want him at a certain price. They don't want him, we're not going to go out and blow your doors off and give you everything that you want. If you want to stay here, we want you here, but we're not going to give you everything. You're going to have to give up something. And the thing is, in the wake of him being on the doorstep of free agency and saying, okay, I'm going to have teams basically kowtowing and bowing and scraping to me, willing to give me 10.75 million dollars. And there's no guarantee that if the Lightning give him that kind of money, that they're going to be able to sign all these guys. They're probably going to have to trade Bishop. They're going to have to go to Vasilevsky. They're probably going to have to get rid of one.
But they have guys. We've talked about it. They have a pretty deep system. It's doable. It's not like it can't happen.
Right. But what I'm saying is that Tampa Bay, if he signs there, it's not a guarantee that Tampa Bay is going to be as strong as they are right now. They could be in a situation where Toronto is in 3 years, where they're going down, Toronto's going up because they've been rebuilding, or Montreal has Carey Price and PK Subban and who else, Max Pacioretty, and they have this this $11 million hole that they can fill with Steven Stamkos. There are other places other than Toronto where he could go and that could afford him, but
Here's the funny thing. So if you look at the Tampa Bay Lightning team records, right? Let's just say we're 10 years down the road and, there's a newborn in Tampa and 10 years down the road, he's going to become a Lightning fan, and he looks at it and he goes, oh, look, number 5 in games played, Steve Stamkos. Oh, look, the guy with the third most goals in team history, Steve Stamkos. Oh, look, he's like in every category for this team in some way, shape, or form for team records. And he didn't play as long as LeCavier or St. Louis, guys he's chasing, and he's already close to him. So what that tells me is he's a generational player that they're never going to get back.
Right.
And they will never draft another Steven Stamkos. It will probably never happen.
And if this is the case where, and I'm not trying to make John Cooper into the enemy here, but if this is a case where Cooper believes that Stamkos is not a center, and it doesn't benefit them to play him at center, and it doesn't benefit them to play him 20 minutes a night, but to play him 13 or 14 or 15, then it's not a fit between the coach and the player, and the coach is going to be there for 4 more years.
Right.
And it's the same problem that they're having with Jonathan Drouin, because Jonathan Drouin doesn't fit with Cooper. They're not going to get rid of Cooper, so now they have to get rid of Drouin.
Well, we don't know that yet. You're jumping the gun on that one.
Right. And the reports are out there that, they're not going to move hastily on Drouin. They're going to make sure
Which do. I mean, why would they?
Right.
Well, again, I just go back to what was the advantage of doing that? He's no longer with the team. When you're no longer with the team, the distraction has gone away.
Right. Right. I mean, all the balls, to use a tennis analogy, all the balls are in Tampa's court.
Like Djokovic won. Wow.
Well, sorry, Milos. You're not going to beat him.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's getting interviewed, and I saw he had 3 sets up, so I'm assuming he won. Wow.
Yeah.
Everybody in Canada just rejoiced.
That what? That Djokovic won?
Yeah.
Well, no, I think Djokovic will beat Raonic. Let's not get into
No, but he's a guy who's beloved in Canada. You know that.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know about that.
He is.
I know Canada loves 2 people, Jeannie Bouchard and Milos Raonic, and that's it.
I don't know. Bouchard's been choking lately, so who knows?
Yeah. But
just saying, a little tennis talk. It's fine.
Yeah, there you go. John McEnroe. That's my idea of tennis. That's the last time I watched tennis. Although the occasional Maria Sharapova match.
Yeah, she's getting a little long in the tooth playing wise.
Yes, she
Serena
is.
just did her really just sort of fleed her off yesterday.
So I mean, we will see. The next chapter in this will be February 29th.
I'm going to give you something.
Okay.
Something to think about for people out there too. If you go to like Hockey Reference, they compare a player to other players, great players at the point that they are in their career, right?
Sure.
So through the first 7 years, here are the comparables to Steven Stamkos.
Okay.
Ready? Gordie Howe, Charlie Conacher, Jaromir Jagr, Guy Lafleur, Paul Kariya. I mean, those guys are all irreplaceable.
Yeah, I know. If I'm Tampa's ownership or Tampa's general manager, I sign him to the max.
You could always trade him after that.
Right, but you
could do a Florida Marlins. Take a cue from the Marlins. They sign guys and they trade them 2 years down the road. They give them the highest paid contract and they still trade them.
Well, I heard some commentators say, well, maybe Stamkos will sign a short-term. There is not a chance in hell that Steven Stamkos is signing anything shorter than a 7 or 8 year contract. No way. I don't care if he gets offered $15 million a year for 3 years.
I agree. He's not doing that. But if you sign him to the deal he wants, even if he has a no trade, no movement, whatever, it still doesn't mean you can't trade him down the road.
Oh, I mean, I agree. And then if you do that, you get assets for him. But that doesn't seem to be where the situation is going here. It seems to
and that's puzzling to me.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I go no further than Giancarlo Stanton. If you think he's living out that contract for the Florida Marlins, there's no way. He will get dealt at some point.
Yeah. Now, we're going to probably be talking trade rumors and.
Really? We're going to talk trade rumors? You sure?
No. Gee, the sarcasm is thick today, Mr. Cohen. No, but we're going to be talking them every day until February 29th, obviously. I just looking at 2 teams in particular, the Caps and the Florida Panthers, 2 different situations. One's an up-and-coming team, a lot of young players. They just locked up Barkov. Washington has got their team, but I think Washington is in a situation where I think they're going to add maybe a rental or 2.
Mm-hmm.
A cheap rental or 2, whereas I think Florida, I mean, the question I have here is this team is winning on not only young talent, but on a chemistry, on an older group of players, the Willie Mitchells, the Luongos, the Sean Thorntons, along with these young kids. Is Talon going to risk that by adding a big rental?
Yeah, I don't see them getting a big rental more than a rental who has a lot of playoff experience.
Yeah, like a Ladd, like an Andrew Ladd.
Yeah, like a Ladd, like even someone lesser than a Ladd, if possible. I could see that happening. Now, again, if they could get Bufflin, they'll get Bufflin, right? I mean, that's a no-brainer. But if they don't seem to get that need, I could see Ladd or a lesser guy who's just a winner who comes into that locker room and can help breed that winning attitude the same way Campbell can and Yager can and some of the other guys who have won cups there to some of the younger players. You don't have to do it to Ekblad, but you do have to do it to some of the younger players. And, I think that would be a big deal. I think – but they're a player. They really are. If you told me, if you woke me up in like 2 months and said, hey, they won the Eastern Conference, they're in the Stanley Cup, if I came out of like a Rip Van Winkle sleep, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, and Washington's task is pretty easy. I mean, their main thing is being able to fit a salary in under their cap right now. I mean, the question is, I haven't heard any updates on Brooks Orpik. And, his status, he's been out, I believe, since November with the
injury. His status is murky every year now. It's just he gets more injured and more injured. He does.
Right. Well, the thing is, they sort of have to make a determination about him. They're operating on all 8 cylinders right now. They're in single digits in losses, so they're not hurting at all. But if they think they need a defenseman, they sort of have to know. Could it be a situation where they put him on LTIR until the end of the year and then bring him back because the cap doesn't count for the playoffs?
Right.
One of the things that's going to be
he'll be around for the playoffs. Whether he plays, it's another story. But there's no question he'll be in the mix there.
Yeah, that is going to be the most interesting thing that's going to happen with a lot of these teams is the whole cap management situation, because a week and a half before the deadline, you're going to start seeing players getting waived for teams to open up cap space. You're going to see players who are on injured reserve being put on long-term injured reserve to open up cap space. All these teams are going to get their financial ducks in a row so they can make their moves. And that's when you're going to see whether teams are buyers or whether they're going to be sellers, because the sellers aren't going to be doing everything to open up $1 in cap space. The buyers are going to be doing that. They're going to get everything in line to make their acquisitions.
Here's a question for you. In the 4 games Mike Richards has played, how many points does he have? 0. How many shots on goal?
I know he had 3 in the last game against Philadelphia. I'd say 9.
4.
Wow.
Like, I'm really, again.
Yeah, but it's a question of what they expect out of him, Russ. If that's all,
he's taken 8 shots. If you want to, because if somebody's saying, "Well, I saw him take more shots," his shots attempted are 8. But my point is, in 12 minutes of ice time, he's got 6 hits, got 1 block, 1 takeaway, 2 giveaways. I wouldn't want him right now on my playoff team. I don't care how much experience he has.
Not even as a forward.
No, because at this day and age, that it could be the difference. Like, let's say you were able to get like a guy like Jason Chimera, that kind of player. Do I want him or do I want Mike Richards on that line?
I know that there are a lot of players who are quicker than Mike Richards. I realize that. But if you're talking about a guy who's going to be your 13th forward, experience does say something. I wouldn't mind having him.
I bring him in, if I'm down in the series 2-1. But he's getting 12 minutes of ice time now. In the playoffs, he's not getting 12 minutes of ice time.
No, I think right now they're trying to find out. They're giving him more ice time than he's going to normally have because they're trying to find out whether he can play.
Right. And
if they come to the determination that he can't play, then you could see him waived before February 29th. That's $1 million in cap space right there.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. It won't shock me if that happens. Now, it's only 4 games. And they chose not to send him on a conditioning assignment. So maybe game 10 it starts kicking in. But I'm just saying that's something where if I'm the GM, I have to watch that because I know he's Justin Williams' buddy, but at the end of the day, I got to win a Stanley Cup.
To me, this is like, remember San Jose when they brought Claude Lemieux back?
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Yeah, and Claude was older, a lot older.
But I'm saying it's basically it's a no-lose situation because you could, like you said, you can always say, okay, we gave it 15 games, it hasn't worked. Thanks for your effort, Mike. Bye.
Right.
They can do that, and then if they do that, they can go out and get themselves a fourth line penalty killer.
But I read you his raw numbers. His raw numbers you could get those numbers out of anybody.
Yeah, I mean, but there is something to be said about a guy's experience, his championship pedigree. If they,
that's why they have Justin Williams.
That's why they have Justin Williams, but it never hurts to have more of it. I mean, don't you think that was part of the reason that they brought in Orpik was the fact that he won a Stanley Cup?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, they're trying to eliminate.
But there's a fine line now. See, this is old school thinking again that we're talking about. In the 80s and 90s, like when the Rangers would bring in a million of those guys, Brian Noonan, whatever, you could load up on those guys, and the speed of the game wasn't so great that they were going to kill you out there, even if you played them.
Yeah, you mean when Neil Smith brought in half the Edmonton Oilers?
Correct. You can't do that anymore, though, because now the speed of the game and everything else that goes, just the degree of what changes a game's momentum now, and we've seen it. It goes on a dime. All of these games are ridiculous that way, and it could come down to that because you've brought in a few guys that, hey, they're winners, but they're past it. And there's a fine line for that now. And look, I don't think you're seeing as many guys go to a lot of other teams and just because they're winners anymore. You're seeing some that could still play. Justin Williams could still play. Right. It's more about him playing than being a winner. It's a good package.
Well, I mean, I think what Washington was shooting for is what Los Angeles got out of Vinny Lecavalier. I think he has 5 points in 7 games.
Right. But even I could tell you that, and we did tell you, that Vinny would score if you played him a lot on the power play and not much anywhere else. And he's doing that.
They're squeezing the last droplets of juice out of the lemon with Vinny Lecavalier. He's opening the throttles wide open. He's done after this year, so he's going all out. He wants to go out with a bang. I mean, I get that, and that may be what's going on with Richards too. I mean, maybe he has a longer term goal here, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think that they're ready to give up on him. It's only been a few games.
No, they're not going to give up on him yet. I'm just telling you from what I see. I give him 10 games. If I don't see anything good in 10 games, as a GM, I'm going to keep him around because he's sucking up minutes and he's keeping other guys from getting injured. But towards the break, I might have to cut bait.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to give him probably until
deadline, not the break, whatever I said.
Right, they're gonna give him until probably the third week in February, about a week before the deadline, and make a determination: is he good enough to play for us in our top 12? If he's not, then we have to make the room for a guy who can be, because anybody they trade for is probably going to be, if it's a depth forward, it's going to be somebody who's making any.
Like, I'll give you an example. Here's a good example. All right, let's say the Rangers were not in playoff contention. Would you rather have Victor Stahlberg, even though he's not going to score a lot of points, or Mike Richards?
Well, Victor Stahlberg can skate.
He can skate.
Yeah, and he's got size.
He has size.
He doesn't use it the way he should.
No, but he's still another barrier to get around, and he can skate.
Sure.
And to me, that's what teams should be adding more than adding a guy like Richards. And look, if he does great, he does great. But I knew there was a better chance of Vinny doing something than Richards doing something. We all sort of knew that one.
Well, somebody made the point that LA is not a very fast team, so Vinny sort of fits in with the entire team. They're not a very quick. They're a big.
That's fine, but wait, let's look up Vinny's. I'm sure most of his points are on the power play, right?
Yeah, I think so, but I just knew the amount of points. I didn't know where they came from, but I would, I've seen him score a couple goals, and I think I think it's 2 goals and 3 assists. I'm not 100% sure.
All right, let's see.
This is good. This is good webcast stuff too.
Yeah. Well, because again, these days, if you're not giving production, then you have to be doing something else. And I saw Richards make one good play on the PK. He got a shot on goal, but it still wasn't enough to make me say, yeah, that makes sense to keep a guy in there. Now, Vinny Lecavalier, if you have a hole in your second power play unit, you want to throw in a guy who still has hands. He has hands. We knew that. All right, so Lecavalier, right now he's got 6 points in 10 games. He's got 1 even strength goal. So it's pretty much what we thought.
Yeah. He's a role player.
Yeah, we knew that, but the problem was in Philly was that they are a bubble team, and they're a little bit of a faster team than LA, or trying to be, and so he didn't fit that dynamic at all.
The one, and this will be the last thing on the show. We're getting the echo here. Hold on.
Just in time.
Typical. The one thing that I will be curious about before the deadline, and I'm obviously focused on Toronto, but with a lot of teams, is how they manage their cap space, like I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And one team in particular, like the we talk about the Blackhawks and talk about Stan Bowman and how he manipulates things and he does them very well. They've got an anchor, an albatross around their neck in Bickle.
Right.
They've already sent him to the minors twice. He's making $4 million. It's $3 million in dead money, and that's $3 million that they could use for a player that could help them.
Right.
Now the question is, are they willing to pay the price to get rid of that contract?
If they think they can win a cup, they'll do it.
And I mean, I think they can win a cup. I'm sure they do the way they're playing right now.
But it all depends on the player.
Yeah, I mean,
you're not going to just do it unless it's the right player that's making you want to do it.
Well, well. First of all, I'm thinking it's two separate transactions. I'm thinking they're going to get rid of Bickle by maybe including a draft pick and trading him someplace.
No, I get that, but they're only doing that if the right player exists. If the right player never exists for them, then they're going to keep him on the roster.
Right. I mean, yeah. If they could get Andrew Ladd.
Right. Unless Andrew Ladd burnt bridges that we don't know about.
Right. If they could get Andrew Ladd, or if they could get Dustin Byfuglien from Winnipeg.
I mean, look, Andrew Ladd hasn't been there in how many years?
Right, and he wasn't brought in by Stan Bowman. Stan Bowman cut the ties with him. He was brought in by Dale Talon.
That's what I'm saying. It's got to be the right fit, because the one thing you don't want to do with the Blackhawks is sort of upset what's going right now.
Right. And Ladd was a captain with the Jets, so and not to say he would disrupt the leadership group with the Blackhawks. Yes, I think it would have to be a right fit, but I think that's a highly likely, because I think that it's them and LA and maybe one other team in the West. But the question is whether Bowman is willing to pay. I think if somebody's going to take Bickle, it's going to have to probably be a first or a second round pick to take that.
It will.
And that's where I think
if the right player exists, they'll do it.
Yeah, and that's where I think a team like a Toronto or a Buffalo. I don't know about Carolina, because I don't think Peter Karmanos wants to take $1 extra.
No, it really doesn't seem like they're gonna. They have to probably shed money, even if they think they have a chance of making the playoffs. They're gonna shed some money.
Yeah. So Chris Versteeg gets traded for the 7th time.
The new Mike Sillinger.
Yes. Okay, well, we may have a show tomorrow. Eklund is traveling to Nashville, and we're hoping to have a show in late afternoon. Stay tuned to Hockey Buzz, to X Blog. He'll probably let us know and let me know if we're going to have a show tomorrow. If not, we will be back on Monday. Thanks, Russ. For Russ Cohen, this is Michael Agello. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.